Time is 7:04, and I'm going to call to order the Borough Council regular voting session, April 20th, 2022. That is all call to order. Next is our Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like that to be led by Ms. Dorsey. Okay, thank you. Item number 3 is comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda. If anybody would like to speak, please approach the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Hey, Darrell.
Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. Your oath of office includes reference to private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. I would like you to immediately adopt the alternate. Public property shall not be given away without just compensation. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Duly noted. Any other comment? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 4, which is comments by Borough Council and the Mayor. And we will start with Mr. McCoy. Thank you. Ms. Vaccaro.
I just want to say I am very pleased with how engaged the community is on a number of different topics coming up. I really appreciate everyone's input. I appreciate everyone's insights. I want to hear everything that everyone has to say. I'm very happy to be in this position, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, I want to thank the members of the Finance Committee and this committee, as well as Keith Karowski for his work with the Parks and Rec and getting funding for some of these parks that desperately need it through the American Recovery Act, and I believe that that will do a lot of good moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn.
Greeting from the sweetest ward in the borough, the 6th Ward. You all should come by because we have 5 breweries and 13 sweet shops. Always remind you to come, especially the breweries. It's a lot of places to be. The other thing two things I'd like to mention is that on April 29th at 5 p.m., the Everhart Park will be honoring Arbor Day. And if you're interested in knowing what I think about a tree, I have 4 minutes to tell you on that day. So we're going to be honoring Arbor Day at Everhart Park at 5 p.m. on the 29th. And the last time we talked together, I mentioned for everybody to please keep praying for Ukraine. It's getting very desperate over there. They're going to be celebrating their Easter this week, and it doesn't look very promising. So please keep the women and children in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to one more, maybe another time in the future, but one more time for now, congratulate the police department on accreditation. It was honestly very, very cool to see such a long-term goal realized. Government doesn't move as fast as I want it to, and that's probably a good thing, but it's just really encouraging to see that. So I'm looking forward to the future. I know it's not one and done, so I'm looking forward to continuing that process as well.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ms. Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Stefano. One, just want to wish everyone a happy Earth Day coming up on Friday. Also wanted to thank the fire department and specifically Dave March and Steve Pelna for a tour that I got of all 3 fire departments on Saturday. Learned a lot about our volunteer fire station or firefighters and how much they give to our community as volunteers. So I hope that this community will continue to support them as they have supported us.
Thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Mayor DeBaptiste.
Thank you, Chairman Stefano. I appreciate that. I just want to reiterate that tonight we vote on Porch Fest. Porch Fest is an initiative sponsored by myself and the Westchester Green Team. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity for the community to come together. It will be held on, hopefully, May the 21st, which is a Saturday afternoon from 1 to 7 p.m. On West Union Street in the Borough, from about the 300 block to the 500 block to Everhart Park. So it's an opportunity to come out and hear musicians of all genres, from opera to rhythm and blues, and our own Chair Stefano will be here blowing on his saxophone and his three-piece band. And so come out and support the arts. We will have food trucks, we will have information booths, and it's just an opportunity to come together and share in the freedom of being able to be with each other once again, and hopefully come and enjoy the music.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited to be a part of that event, and I'm excited to play. It's always enjoyable for me and for us to play for people. So I hope everybody can make it out to that event. I don't think it can be overstated the congratulations to the police department for their accreditation that they received last night formally. Just an incredible task. I know I've been hearing about it from the chief and mayor and from Mayor Norley before Mayor DeBaptiste about how much work it was and how much time was put into it. So I just really, it can't be overstated how much of an achievement that is. So congratulations again to that. Also, congratulations to university. They'll be, by the next time we'll meet, they'll have already, the graduating class, so it should be done by then, I'm pretty sure, if my timeline's correct. So congratulations to all them. I have to say, I think this semester in the Fourth Ward, at least I haven't got much feedback, has been pretty quiet. There's been some days when it's been nice out, and there's been some louder parties, but nothing out of hand, and it really is appreciated by the community. I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody could correct me, but it seemed pretty quiet down there, and it's been pleasant to have this semester go that well. So that's it for me. Thank you. Number 5 is our discussion. We have a couple items on our discussion. First, item A is appointment of the vacancy on our Civil Service Commission, and I wanted to clarify that this appointment will be to fill the term throughout the rest of this year, and then we'll have to then revisit the appointment for the next term. So this is just to fill the end of the year, if that's correct, Mr. Metrick, correct?
Yeah, it's to fill the vacancy that's occurred on the commission of a seat that would have otherwise expired at the end of this year. So this person, if we're appointed tonight, would serve, roughly 8 months.
Got it. Thank you. And then another point of clarification, last night I had asked about the possibility of having alternates, but we did look into that, and currently our code does not allow for alternates. That is something we could look at in the future to change, but that will not be up for discussion tonight. So unfortunately, we'll only make one appointment and no alternates tonight. Okay. That being said, I think it would be appropriate for to have a nomination or somebody appointed to this commission.
Mr. Stefano, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Troy L. Chapman to fill this vacancy on the Civil Service Commission.
And I would like to second that.
Great. We have a motion and a second for Troy Chapman to take over the vacancy. I don't know if there's any discussion. Okay. All right, great. Mr. Metrick, would you call the question?
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Ms. Vaccaro,
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. McCoy,
Yes.
Ms. Dorsey,
Yes.
and Mr. Stefano.
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations to Mr. Chapman. And I want to congratulate and thank all the other members all the other folks who came out and went out for the position. It's really encouraging to see multiple candidates and such highly qualified candidates who are willing to serve the borough. So thank you all for your willingness to serve. Okay, moving on to item B, which is a continuation of our discussion of the possible closure of Gay Street for this year. I think I'm going to set it up where everybody up here, please give your last remarks on it and your ideas. And then then I can open it up to for any more further public comment, and then we'll hopefully have a decision by then. So I don't know if anybody wants to start off up here on the dais, but
I don't, Mike.
Mr. McCoy, go ahead.
Sure. I appreciate those who came out last night and spoke in favor of doing it mostly 24/7, Ms. Brown. And I have thought about it a lot since then. But nonetheless, I've sort of come back to my original opinion, which was I think it should be the weekends this year. I would love to see it, a more permanent closure and more some flexibility. So I think we need to move forward with a design for, a permanent solution once it's in the borough's hands, which it is not at this point. But I think this year, given the construction with Aqua, with Pico, the police department, fire department concerns, construction of the hotel, I really feel that this year the appropriate thing to do is the weekends.
I am very much in favor of 24/7 closure. I think that this community has a lot to offer, and to move forward, we need to move forward. I do understand all the reasons that my colleagues are pushing for a weekend shutdown, and I am completely willing to support the weekend shutdown as long as we continue to push and push hard towards a more permanent shutdown with long-term solutions, with real planning and changes. I think that from all of the communities that I've been involved with, the places that I've visited, the streets that are shut down in communities like ours permanently are much more beautiful, more pleasant, more inviting. They say a lot about the community around them, and we have a lot to say about who we are in Westchester. And I think it's just the next step forward. And I think it's very important that we continue pushing in that direction.
I would like to also express my support for the 24/7 shutdown. I think Westchester has changed a lot, as we all know, in the past 20 years, 30 years. There will always be development. There will always be construction. So I don't think that's necessarily something to fear. It will be annoying, but that's okay. There will always be construction. And it will always be annoying when it's happening. And the reason I don't have as much hesitation is because we're not losing in any of the road repairs. We're not losing any westbound lanes of traffic. Like if Chestnut Street was going to be torn up or Minor, I might be a little more convinced that it's a bad idea and that we'd end up in some hot water. But the fact that we're going to have some issues going east, we're going to have some issues traveling north-south, it sounds like. I don't think having another westbound lane open is going to be super beneficial for us. And when I think about the main, arteries, east-west in the borough, Chestnut, Gay, Market, Minor, 3 of them go west and 1 of them goes east. So shutting down a westbound lane of traffic seems reasonable to me and seems doable. And I think it's a good idea. I'd like to always do it. And I think committing and making the simple, easiest choice, I think is going to be the best. A lot of coordination we don't have to deal with. A lot of consistency. No one's going to have to think like, oh, is it open today? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just easier for everyone, I think, if we keep it clean and keep it consistent.
Sure. My most famous street is on the way to Cape May. I fell in love with you. Washington Square is the most vibrant, closed street that I've ever been on. I've been to Burlington and all those other places, but you can go to Cape May, and we actually have a complete setup just like Washington Street. We have Our Lady, the Star of the Sea, at one end, but anchors the street. So we have St. Agnes at the other end, and we just build each way. When I first got on council, I was told we would never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never shut down Gay Street. So I've been a proponent for shutting Gay Street down permanently since 2017, because I think that the town can hold that street in high esteem, just like Savannah. Savannah has a beautiful downtown single street. But Cape May, I just got back last week from being down our house, and you had to bump into people walking down the street. But with that being said, I know with all the challenges that we have and planning to do it correctly, like Cape May, takes a little time and planning. And I know this council here can do it with the ballards and with all the different things we can do. But going forward in 2022, I would like to see just the weekends only so we can move things around. People get a taste of it again. But the 24/7 and the long run is my biggest goal to see done, just like Washington Street down in Cape May. Thank you.
Thank you. McGinnis, anything you want to add?
Yes, I am for the eventual permanent shutdown of Gay Street, but I think this year we have too many obstacles with too many projects going on. And I think that if we could shut it down this year on the weekends, as Councilman Flynn suggested, and so did McCoy, that we could do what Councilwoman Vaquero wants to do and have that permanent shutdown. And I believe that planning begins now, because we're going to have to update a lot of infrastructure on Gay Street, as you know. We're going to have to update, make sure that everything is going to be handicap accessible for everyone. And of course, probably stormwater drainage, things of that nature that we need to take into account moving forward. And so I think we could at least start to begin that, have that conversation this year. And then so that when we talk about it next year or early next year, or wherever that time frame may be, that we could have that realistic conversation about shutting it down permanently. But for now, again, with all the projects going on, I'm for the weekends only.
Ms. Dorsey, you want to?
I don't really have anything new to add. I think, we said last night we'd like to see it permanently closed, but this year it's just not feasible for any number of reasons. So I would vote for the Friday to Monday morning.
Mayor, you want to chime in on this?
I see the issues on both sides, and I see the dilemma that council is in. I would say that I would, and I appreciate all of the sides of the problem, because there's ramifications whichever way we go. But what I hear is the residents of Westchester and the people of Westchester, in addition to the businesses, liked the idea of 24/7. And I hear the businesses like that because the whole concept of storing the equipment from Monday through Thursday and then going back to storage and getting it out every week was a significant labor drain, in addition to all sorts of other kind of drains, I'm sure. So I'm hearing the people like 24/7, and I ultimately think we need to listen to the residents of Westchester. Everything else can be worked out.
Thank you. I also am a big fan of 24/7, but I do think this year there are some other obstacles. I don't think we can't do it. I think we could absolutely pull it off to do 24/7, but I have a longer term goal to do that in a more consistent fashion. I think the planning needs to start ASAP. I think we, have to look at it as council having either an ad hoc committee or something that kind of devotes a lot of time to really tackle this and starting it now for future years. But I think right now, logistically, I think it makes sense for the weekends. I still love the idea of 24/7. I'm a proponent of it. I want it. But I think this year it makes the most sense to do the weekends and also get a chance to see how it works. If it doesn't work, then we'll know. So, but I think, Mr. Allen, you're right. There's always going to be something. every year there's going to be something new popping up. I feel like every year we think we're done with Pico or Aqua, and every year they both come back and have another project. So that's never going to go away. We're always going to deal with that. And that's something that we can't use it as an excuse all the time, but I agree.
Mr. Stefano?
Yeah, Mr. Flynn.
The abandonment sheet that we're waiting for patiently from the Commonwealth. There is a line in that document that says that we are not permitted as a borough to shut down Gay Street without permission from PennDOT. When you start the ad hoc committee, I think that should be the first thing that we look into, because they may just flatly tell us, no.
That's for a permanent shutdown.
Permanent
right?
shutdown for 24/7, yeah. Because that's in our agreement that we signed on to. And I objected to that, but as Mr. Perone said, it's all or nothing, don't try to kick the bird's nest.
Yeah,
So-
understood.
So that's the biggest thing when the ad hoc committee starts. That's one of the major things. No sense wasting all their time if they have their feet in the mud.
Yeah, understood. Thank you. I'd like to, at this point, open it up to anybody here in the public who would like to come up and make any comments. I'd like you to do your best to keep it at 3 minutes if you could, but please state your name and address for that record.
So I don't have as much to say because I was going to ask for the weekend thing. My name's Terry McClure. I'm at 302 West Marshall Street. My husband and I have lived in this borough for 40 years. Well, I have. He's been here 70. So we've seen a lot of changes. And we remember when the borough was not a very nice place to be. It's kind of awful scary to go up there. So my point was tonight was to ask you to please consider this year with all the challenges, just the weekends, and that there were some other things. I really appreciate Ms. Dorsey's concern and thoughtfulness as to trying to really look at the big picture, which it sounds like you all are really made me very happy that is what I heard tonight. So there was just a few little things I thought that I might want to still say, and that is I'm a little concerned about if the borough has any liability, because the public safety officers, who are top public safety officers, recommended no. So if something should happen, what kind of position would we be in? I had brain spin last night, so you'll just have to forgive me. The other thing was that intersection of Gay and High is pretty brutal to cross, whether you're a pedestrian or in a vehicle. I've made the mistake a couple of times driving through town not to bypass it. And I don't know if it would be possible to put the traffic signal back on to have a little bit better control so that the people aren't just walking across High Street and you're trying to inch your way across. It's kind of dangerous for everyone. Also, was there anything more thought about the aesthetics? Because we had big discussions about what those intersections look like, and trash pickup and cleaning the streets and that kind of stuff. I know eventually Mr. Flynn said you're the Scrooge. My kids used to call me the no woman in fun wrecker, which I loved to live up to at the time. But I just want to be really careful and fiscally responsible that, this isn't going to do anything to already sometimes precarious budget that we have. As a taxpayer, I want to be fiscally responsible. My other suggestion would be if we do close, well, it sounds like we're going to close the street, and this came up initially, would there be a possibility to have a walkway just for pedestrians, maybe down the middle of Gay Street? I've tried to take a stroller up there. It's a little bit of a challenge. If you're with a group, you sort of have to meander your way around. And as somebody who's eating up there, you get bumped and shuffled. And so I didn't know if there would be any thought given to maybe just at least trying to have some designated walk area so people weren't banging into each other. So thank you. I don't have to read my whole thing. And thank you for everything that you guys do. Holly, it's good seeing you again. And I respect what you had to say last night too. So I just wanted to.
Ms. McClure, thank you very much. Those are great points and great ideas. And these are feedback we need to hear. Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Brown, come on.
Few more comments. One, I'm going to say thank you for, it seems like everyone is looking forward to the possibility of closing that street eventually, because I've been trying to get this done for 20 years now, and I'm getting old, and you got to get it done soon so I can enjoy it. But I took the time today to walk around and talk to a couple of the restaurants along the street, and their comment was that they're happy to have any closure. It helps because they're all still struggling a little after COVID. But to try to move stuff off the street, they all said on short notice like that, is a problem for them. They have to have staff in Sunday night to move it. They have to have staff in to take it back out. They have no place to store it. Where are they going to put it? So that was a comment they all made to me. I only got to like 4 of them. I went in the middle of the afternoon and there was no one in Avalon and no one in Social Lounge, so I couldn't talk to them. But so that was one of their issues. The other issue was that one of you mentioned the ambiance of it. They said it would not be as nice this time because, like OPA said, I had palm trees out there and flowers out there. They said, I'm not going to do that this year because I can't move them all. I can't move them every weekend. I can't do it. So it really is more difficult for them to be open just 3 days a week rather than 24/7. They have no place to put it. Now, long term, that would be great. They could work on the ambiance long term. I also stopped to see Scott Zukin because you mentioned the hotel. He is like, no, I'd like to see the street closed 24/7. Talk to him this afternoon. And he said that would not bother his construction at all. Most of it's coming in from the back. The worst part's going to be 2 days of taking it down when it's going to be dusty. And after that, there wouldn't be much of an issue. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I know you're talking about Pico construction, but when Pico wants to do construction, what do you have to do? You have to close the street. The street's already closed. So you don't have to close the street. And then the point is, Pico is in so many overruns right now for the work they're being done. They would probably love to get out of here a lot faster. So if that street is closed, they don't have to close up at 3 o'clock and then open it up the next morning. They can stay and work all night long if they want to. So they can bring in extra crew and then get the hell out of town a lot faster than they're doing it right now. So it may be something you want to talk to Pico about. They're pretty good at negotiating that kind of stuff. And they would probably like to be able to do it faster and be able to have the street closed. The restaurants can still be open. So I think that might be a benefit, actually, to having the street closed for Pico.
Yeah, just to clarify, Pico is going to be doing work on Market Street, which is the concern.
There is no problem.
Well,
But
then
if
there are
they
2
came back
plans.
and had to do something on Gay Street, the advantage would be the street's already closed.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah. Any questions? All right, I've had my say. But thank you all for being open to the full thing. And by the way, I'd love to be on that HOC committee if you get it started.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. O'Brien, could you respond to Ms. Brown? She said she talked to some business owners, talked about the difficulties in the weekend. Would you just mind, did you hear that kind of feedback?
So I did specifically reach out to the restaurants in terms of, they're currently required to every night. They were required to move things to the side. So to some level, there's already a movement that's going on. It's kind of situational based on the space. OPA did express concerns because they didn't feel like they had the real estate to store some stuff, whereas like a Sidebar or a Tekka did feel like they had room to kind of move things to the side. Saloon was the same way. I think it is something that can be overcome. The bids position, we want to see this done in any fashion. So, I'm supportive any which way to get this done. I know I've expressed that many times here. So that's kind of the gist of it. I think it'll just be, and as Mr. Metrick mentioned, this is going to be a newer operation. There's going to be some bumps early on, and we're going to kind of have to, the first couple times, feel our way through the process on that.
Okay, thank you. I saw some hands. Come on down. Yeah. And then Mr. Brayson, I saw your hand. You can come up next.
Good evening. My name is Troy Chapman, and I'd like to thank you for your appointment to the Civil Service Commission and let you know that I look forward to serving wholeheartedly on whatever is necessary for our community. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Mr. Braceland, come on up.
Hello, Don Braceland, 423 West Neal Street. This is a related issue to the closure, and I've brought this up twice before to the police department when Scott was here and also with Jim, and that's noise control. Noise control, if we close, and it almost doesn't matter which option we have, noise is going to be an issue. We have people out on the street. It doesn't matter whether the roads are closed. But with the motorcycles, the loud trucks, everybody complains about that. Everybody. And I'm a motorcyclist. I complain about it. And I think what needs to be considered is a formal noise control program. It is not expensive. The equipment itself, less than $1,000. And like I said, I've developed a program that I offered to the police department, and it just never seemed to go anywhere. Jordan, I think, brought it up as well. I've been through the Pennsylvania code. I know all the legalities of it, requirements of it. It's a little technical, but, and the officers, we would probably need 2 at a crack on bicycles. They would need to be certified. That's done by the state. But the one thing about this is, and I take flack for this, it's a moneymaker. You can, actually, a judge can fine you any amount, but $600-700 a crack, and it's provable in court if you have the decibel meter. Right now, if you can go to court and the officer will say, well, they'll ask the officer, do you have a decibel meter reading? He'll say, no, case dismissed. First-year law student could handle it. So I just think as an adjunct to what you're discussing on this subject, it's something, we finally need to do something about it, and it's not going to be costly. And it would make for a much better environment uptown. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Braceland. And I agree. My least favorite part about eating outside right now is the noise, but my favorite part about the shutdown was not having that noise. Nice. Anybody else like to comment? Mr. Cook.
Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. Will Westchester resident taxpayers be receiving a discount for eating on Gay Street?
Not that I know of. Unless the business wants to do that. Any other comments? Okay. Hey, come on up.
Hello, Bonita Ties, 306 South High Street. I just had a general question about the trash on Gay Street. If it were to get shut down, will Public Works be able to get in and clean up the streets on the weekends when things get a little more rowdy? I know sometimes on Market and Gay, the trash cans get overfilled and you can't really do anything with your trash, so they just leave it and it gets piled up. Will they be able to get in there more frequently, or?
Yeah, I don't know the what they did in the past with the shutdown. I'm sure Mr. O'Brien could give you all the details. I'm pretty sure they put them off to the sides of each block. But
Sure. So for the Big Belly bins, Public Works moves them to more towards the intersections so that they can easily grab them. The bid, as far as like litter that you see just on the street, the bid coordinates community service volunteers through Judge Vito's office. We usually get each street now about 3 times a week. We're coordinating, on track to coordinate over 2,000 hours just this year. As far as individual trash collection, most places will get it collected in the alleyway. That's where their normal operation. There's a couple places where, for instance, Kildare's and Sidebar, they would need to, they pull their trash into, on usually Mondays, the intersection, the trash can gets put out, and then they're instructed to have that removed as soon as the truck comes by, since it's a private hauler that does a majority of the businesses downtown, not Public Works.
great, thank you. Any further comments? All right. Well, at this point, I feel like we've exhausted the conversation, and if somebody would like to make a motion for a specific plan, I think it would be appropriate at this point.
Mr. Stefano, I'd like to make a recommendation or a motion to close Gay Street for this 2022 season, Friday morning to Monday morning.
I'll second that motion.
And should we clarify the dates?
Memorial Day to Labor Day, I think is what we've discussed previously.
Are you okay with that? Is a second? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a motion, a second to close Gay Street from Memorial Day to Labor Day in 2022 from Friday morning until Monday morning. And the specific hours can be figured out by Public Works. So, okay. Any, ready for the question, Mr. Metric?
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Ms. Vaccaro?
No.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
No.
Mr. McCoy?
Yes.
Ms. Dorsey?
Yes.
And Mr. Stefano?
Yes, the motion carries 5-2. So thank you. And thanks to everybody for your hard work on that. I know it was a tedious undertaking, but something as big as this really needed to be fleshed out. And I appreciate all the feedback from everybody who came and who emailed and who's been giving their feedback. Appreciate that. And I look forward to that. Okay, on to our consent agenda. I know there might be a question about one item from the chamber. Somebody wants to come up? Yeah.
Stefano. My name is Matt Shea. I live at 28 East Washington Street. I work for the university, and I serve as the chair for the Greater Westchester Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to get some clarification on the consent agenda, item I. As I understand it, well, as I remember and was there, our last payment for public services first responders was $9,800. So I just wanted to make it explicit that what we're looking at is a 50% reduction of that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that that number will be different this year, just because it's been several years. I don't know the specifics of that. And I'm not sure when we'll get the specifics of that number.
Yeah, I can clarify that. So the expectation would be to go through the normal special event fee calculation process that's already in place. So let's say that in 2019, that yielded a cost of something north of $16,000. So we would then have that. That's the 50% reduction in fees. And then what's remaining is offset by revenue generated from the parking, the special event parking revenue, which is hard to predict. We had 500 and some odd cars park in 2019. I can't predict how many cars will be here. But council is considering in the subsequent motion on the consent agenda to double the unit fee of cars parked.
Yeah. So my
the best we can do.
optimistic idea would be to get well over $10,000 in offset. I know that's a bit optimistic, but if it was 5,000 last time, I feel like that makes sense.
Mr. Stefano and Mr. Metric, the police department and public works has not given us a safety or a production pro forma for the 2022. Since our last parade, the police department has received a 12% pay raise, and the public works have received 9%. So we can't give a formal number, as you said, until the chief of police gives a safety assessment of what it's actually going to cost, and public works actually what's going to cost. And then once we calculate those numbers, then we can do the 50%. But we don't know what the pro forma looks like from the police department because of staffing, because we have a new chief. I don't think Chief Moorhead was the chief then. It could have been Chief Bond. But we still need a pro forma because we don't know what or how many police officers they say they need. So they have to actually do the criteria for us. So that's my opinion on it.
Okay.
We don't know the numbers until they tell us.
But our fees are published, right? So
Yeah.
the fees are out on our website. They are what they are. And I understand that each event is a little bit different, but we do have a template for the parade. We're looking at scaling that back, right? So, if we're using the $9,700 that you mentioned from 2019, and we're looking at a smaller parade for a shorter period of time, I mean, I still think that we have a range that you can use.
Yeah, I think all those factors will work in your benefit in terms of you're scaling back the parade, the time is shorter, so therefore the cost that would normally be accrued would be a lot less, plus the 50% reduction, plus the increasing the parking revenue. So it should work out in your favor.
I just want to, I said this at the time when that original cost was proposed. I just want to make sure we're being real careful about marginal costs when it comes to the police force and the public safety. Right? So what are the costs we were going to have anyway? What are the extra costs of the parade? Things like car depreciation, right?
Yeah, understood.
Usage.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. That being said, any other just comments or on the discussion on the consent agenda? And if not, a motion to approve it would be appropriate.
Mr. Stefano, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to approve by Ms. Dorsey and seconded by Ms. Vaccaro. Mr. Metric, call the question, please.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Ms. Vaccaro?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. McCoy?
Yes.
Ms. Dorsey?
Yes.
And Mr. Stefano?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. I don't see any other business marked here. Anybody else have any other business?
Mr. Stefano,
yes, Mr.
may I take a couple seconds?
Sure.
Council members, if you remember about I proposed a different change to the Rail Commission, where I mentioned that I would like to turn the Westchester Railroad into a walking and biking trail from Westchester to Wawa, or Franklintown, they call it now, down in Delaware County. Mr. Metrick and I, Mr. Braceland, met with a couple county commissioners, and that's a long, heavy lift as well, because you have to get inter-county permission to do it, then you have to have funds to do it, then you have to have SEPTA's permission to do it, and then you have to have the interest of people to do it. It almost takes a referendum to do it. But what I can tell you is that the lovely historic train that we have in this borough is landlocked, which I did not know. My proposal was to take our train and move it over to Pocopson or move it over to another rail line. Our rail line is 7.2 miles long. And at the end of that 7.2 miles, they can't go anywhere because there's no rails beyond the 7.2 miles. So I think it's very important that Borough Council and the borough employees and borough everybody pays closer attention to the historic train because if it has to shut down, we're going to have a rail system sitting there that we really can't use. And they do bring in quite a bit of tourists to the downtown. I was hoping people could actually get on a bicycle and ride from Westtown to Borough for breakfast, but that's not going to happen either. So I think the rail going from here to Wawa for the high-speed thing is it may not happen as well. So because of cost and people wanting to do the ride. So I think we need to pay a little bit more attention to our historic train that we have in the borough.
Thank you for doing that legwork and thinking outside the box. Appreciate that. Okay, any other business? All right, go Sixers. Meeting is adjourned.